Hebrews 12:1. It says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us." This is just for the average Christ follower, the race that is we're called to run, a race of perseverance, a race that we understand that there's going to be things that hinder us. But today we're talking about the pioneer. When it comes to the pioneer who's going out, the race becomes a lot more complicated. It becomes a lot more difficult. There's a lot more hurdles. It's a race that many are called to, but few are chosen. Now, I don't want to go through our whole story, but I do want to share with you now that we've gone from 2006 with 20 people with an annual budget of $20,000 to now 2012 and the 350 people. I believe the success has been contributed to how we have stewarded. That's a big word that every pioneer should understand. Stewardship. That we're not owners, but we're called to be stewards. Here's some things that might be helpful to you, those who are looking to pioneer. Remember the story of Moses where God said, "What is in your hand?" So I had to take what was in my hand and begin to steward that properly. And what was in my hand wasn't many people and wasn't much finances, but I did have our drivers in hand. The reach, teach, partner, and release aspect of who we are. And also I needed a steward is money, the monies that came in, no matter how small, no matter how large, doing what I needed to do to properly steward what God was bringing into his kingdom. Also time. So how was I going to steward my time, the free time I had, where it wasn't filled with a bunch of meetings, it wasn't filled with a bunch of church activities because we were just getting started, but I still was responsible to steward my time properly. And also the people that he was giving me. Instead of just imagining what I'm going to do with the many people that he would bring one day, how was I stewarding the people that he gave me at that moment, helping them with their capacity to lead and to develop. Lastly, but not finally, whatever property I was given, whatever property I had, how was I stewarding that property to the best of my ability? Now, this is why I believe we went from building to building, is because we stewarded to the best capacity each facility that we were in and each place we went to. And so I encourage you to look at what you have in your hand and how can you best steward those things. Pioneering tips that I learned along the way, and I think it'll be beneficial to you. Pioneer tip number 1, work with what you got more than you complain about what you don't got. Our vision is big. What we want to do for God is big. The things that God has promised us are huge. The less resources make us more dependent on the Holy Ghost and more creative with what we got. Pioneer tip number 2, learn about what you don't know. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but Solomon talks about how wisdom is more priceless than rubies, than gold, than money. He said to his son in Proverbs, get wisdom, acquire insight. A lot of times we believe that if we have certain resources and certain things, we'll be better off and we'll be more capable. But wisdom is what makes you capable and more indispensable. Find a way of getting a good godly support system that will teach you what you don't know. And read. Be an avid reader. Find books, find resources, find things that you can just read so that you begin to learn what you don't know. This was priceless for me. Pioneer tip number 3, leverage solitude. There's going to be many moments where you feel alone. The support system can't be there for you 24/7. The crowds are not there yet. Ministry is just getting started. What do you do in those alone times? How do you leverage those moments? Elijah was one that had a difficult time with this. And he even found himself complaining to God that he was the last one left. He was the last prophet. He was the last man of God. A lot of times when we're pioneering something, we experience lonely moments. And so how do we leverage that solitude? Learning from Elijah, we find that he discovered that God was there in the still, small voice. He wasn't always in the earthquake. He wasn't always in the fire. He wasn't in those things as much as he's in the still, small voice. And so what do you do in your solitude moments? How will you allow God to speak to you? How will he begin to, you give him permission to make the man as he's making the ministry? And so those are three strong pioneer points that I would encourage any pioneer, any missionary, any leader who's venturing to do something mighty for God. God bless you guys.